Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Champions. I'm Steve Strum, brought to you by Mortgage Now. And speaking of Mortgage Now, I am sitting right next to the founder of Mortgage Now, Mr. Marshaun Jackson.
How's it going?
Good, brother. How
Good. Doing very well. Thank you.
Mortgage Now, that's about money, right?
That's all it's about.
You know, in another episode, we were talking about this fabled money tree. So, it's in the back behind the studio. Anybody here watching, we have money at a good rate.
Yes, sir.
For Mortgage Now. But
absolutely.
In order to get that money, it usually has to belong to a house.
Maybe.
It's always good. Especially the kind of money you deal in. So who do we have here to talk about the whole part about getting the house so that they get the money from the Mortgage Now?
Absolutely. So, Paul Wenglowsky. Wenglowsky.
There you go.
That's a fine Scottish name.
I always say it's a good old Southern last name.
Exactly.
How you doing, Paul?
Good. I'm doing great.
Great.
So we're talking a little offset about, you specialize. So there's people that watch this show that are outside of Jacksonville. But for the folks that are in Jacksonville and folks watching outside, we're talking about knowing your market and how that's a differentiator in the real estate world, especially given the current economic environment where real estate's changed, right? It's more normal and it's not like these houses are turning over in 24 hours. Tell us a little bit about where you specialize and why that's so important for your clientele.
Thank you. So, as you're probably well aware of, but for those that don't live around here, St. Johns County for 20 plus years has been the number one school district. We have the nation's oldest city. We are tied for second in median income. We're top county in healthcare. So we have a lot of people moving in all the time. And what we have people also, we have some military that are always relocating as well. So that means that you really have to stay on top of the market, especially with single family homes, whether that's a home, a condo, or a townhome. And what we've been seeing now is that starting in July of last year, we were still in a traditional market. And so you were seeing houses on the market 30, 45, 60 days, which is about normal. But then we started seeing a slide as there was more inventory coming into the market. Prices are starting to come down. There's not as many buyers. The mortgage rates are fluctuating. And we now started to go into a buyer's market. And so we're seeing buyers that are out there, but they're being very picky. So instead of the typical 30, 40, 45 or 60 days, we're seeing 60, 75 days, and as long as 90 days right now.
So for people that are watching this, but that 90-day cycle to sell a house is normal. That's not outrageous. But the stuff that we experienced coming out of like COVID, where it's like you list it, the next day it's sold, obviously that's abnormal, but it's as abnormal as in Marshaun, in your world, the 2.5% mortgage rates. Those things were not normal. But people that are watching this that might have been in high school during the Great Recession may not understand that.
That's
so
true.
From a mortgage perspective,
Yes, sir.
what's a normal rate?
Great question.
Which is changing. According to your mama, every question's a great question.
I would say, in my professional and personal opinion, if you're in the range of 6 to 7%, that's pretty cheap money.
So that's a normal rate, and the stuff that we've had, this 2.5 stuff, was due to some economic circumstances almost 20 years ago.
Correct.
You might have had hair, and I had more hair back last time that we had that.
Same here.
Well, you know what? We're just becoming more aerodynamic, so that's how you have to look at that. So
I'm using that.
Feel free to steal it. It's quite all right. We got 10% to the production team, and we're good. So as far as normal mortgage rates,
yes,
so
sir.
we're a little high now, but we're settling into normal. We're getting into a normal cycle, right, of that 90-day window of sell a house, buy a house, that whole thing. What are some of the things that you've noticed or tips and tricks that you may give to our audience about how to perform both either as the buyer or as the seller in your personal or professional opinion on how do you make that deal happen as efficiently, as realistically possible given the market that we're in?
Certainly. So what we're telling our our sellers right now, because we have a number of listings, and as they're sitting on the market, people are getting frustrated. And they have places they want to go. They have destinations that they want to go move closer to the family or whatever it is. So what we tell them is, you right now, with all these other listings on the market, you have to create a sense of urgency. So the first thing is, you have to talk with a realtor who really knows the market, and you have to get ahead of the curve. So, for example, if you have a bunch of homes in your neighborhood that are listed at $350,000 and they're all sitting and they're not getting showings, what does that tell you? That means that they're overpriced. So let's get ahead of that. Look at what the last house sold in that community for and go 4% under. And then you're competitive, right? And also, sellers are also offering such things as paying up to $5,000 in closing costs, or maybe a rate buy down, something along those manners. Because right now, as I said earlier, the buyers are picky and they're taking their time. But if you create a sense of urgency, you're going to get your home sold.
And when you talk about making it slightly less than the other guy, it's not, a couple percentage points is not like, oh my God, my profit's gone.
Correct.
It's just making it so it's competitive, and then lining up the guy that's going to have the money tree to make sure that that's there is also important, so that way the transaction kind of flows smoothly.
That's correct.
And I know that there's so much in real estate that's hard to cover in 5 minutes, and about your value proposition, your specialization within, the St. Augustine and St. Johns County. For folks watching this, so you've got Chicago, so Jacksonville's roughly the size of Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. So you've got Chicago, but then you got Chicago land. And so Jacksonville land goes almost 2 hours in any direction, except for, can't go too far east because you get a little wet.
Right.
But there's a very large demographic and population area that we live in, and you service one of the hottest growing communities, not just in the area, but in the nation.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So what we'll do is we'll make sure to put your stuff on our website, thedailynewsnetwork.com, so people can come check you out, whether in Jacksonville, outside of Jacksonville, so they can understand a little bit more about the value that you add.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
And I thank you so much for joining us. And Marshaun, man, I appreciate that you always think I have good questions. So for the audience, that's a little bit of an inside joke. His mom would tell him that every question is a good question.
Every question is a
so
good
hopefully
question.
they are good questions, or he's just being extraordinarily kind to me. We can't do this without you. So thank you so much for watching this episode. If you like it, share it. And remember, live with gratitude.
It is a passionate mortgage brokerage that's local here in Jacksonville, Florida. We offer your traditional mortgages, purchase, refinance, debt consolidation, your conventional FHA, VA, government. I want them to feel like we care, like truly empathetic. We understand. I want them to understand we're knowledgeable. We're here for them. They are not just a number.